Good morning. Welcome to Claremont Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Tracy Earlywine and so glad you joined us this morning. We come together every week to remember not only the truth of who we are, but to celebrate our magnificence. Today is Palm Sunday, the beginning of Holy Week in the Christian tradition, and later this week we'll be celebrating the Jewish holiday of Passover. For this is truly a season of transformation. Our guest practitioner today is Pat Richards. She's joining us from Harmony Center for Spiritual Living in Whittier, California. She'll be doing our opening prayer, followed by a reading. So let's begin. I invite you to take a moment and close your eyes and take that deep breath. Move your attention into the heart space, that place within you that knows only the divine, only love, only peace. That place where we remember that you and I and Spirit are one.
Let's go into that heart space and know that right here, right now, God is. And God is the essence, the morning light that we experienced this morning. The love and the light and the new beginnings. And God is the little leaves, the bright green leaves on the trees that are beginning to bloom. And the amazing smell that's in the air. It's all fresh and all bright. And it's spring. Spring, a time of excitement and energy and goodness to begin again. And I'm so thankful to be here. Thankful to be here in this amazing, loving community with Reverend Tracy. And to be here and to just have an open heart full of joy and enthusiasm and energy. So I'm thankful to be a part of this, and I release this into the law, knowing that what I believe is done in the mind of God. It is all good, it is all God, and so it is. My reading today is from Creative Thought 2012, and it's called I Live in Calm and Peace. There is an infinite thinker that is all-powerful and everywhere present at all times. This divine spirit is the energy, awareness, and totality of all that exists. Divine life is my life now. God is always operating no matter what is going on in the outside world. There may appear to be turmoil, but inside, the true essence of all forms is all calm and peace. I listen and I hear the voice of wisdom clearly and distinctly. It reminds me that I am one in individualization of peace. I am united with all life. No matter what the outer experience is, I turn within and consciously connect with truth. I then move forward in integrity, claiming my place in this world with complete self-awareness and self-assurance. This path opens and I find calmness and acceptance. In gratitude for this revealing of truth, I rejoice and allow Spirit to have its way with me. I release my word, knowing as I see it, it demonstrates in my world, and so it is.
As I said earlier, our theme this month in April is revolution, which is defined as an instance of great change in affairs. And I'd say that's true these days, wouldn't you? I mean, after all, things have changed dramatically. I think really what we're seeing is a demonstration of the mindset, the cultural consciousness, if you will, that's pervaded our nation for some time. A sense of separation and division and otherness and being apart from each other and somehow not connecting with each other. I think that's showing up in our outer world as social distancing. Now, obviously, this distancing is taking place for a very different reason. There are physical health challenges in the world right now. But what we know is that consciousness is cause, and that this is simply an outpicturing of where we are culturally. And so we've taken steps. We are staying separate from each other when we are in public. We are being careful not to interact at close physical distance. And yet, even in keeping that physical distance, we're becoming very aware of how strongly connected we truly are and how strong that desire is to be with the people we love. Even in the midst of our fear and that sense of overwhelm, so many things are different that it can be overwhelming. But even in the midst of that, we're aware that this too shall pass, that life will go on, that we will come through this. Even in the midst of great disappointment, for family gatherings not held, for holidays being celebrated apart from each other, from that sense of things falling apart that we all seem to be immersed in, even in the midst of that, there's room to be grateful. There's room to be hopeful, to trust that all things will, in fact, coalesce once again, yet in a new form. It's the season of spring. It's the season of all things new. And we're really being asked to prepare a new way of life in a way we never have before, not in our lifetimes. It's the season of Passover and Easter and these great stories of transformation. And we're having to go from what is normal, what the usual is, into a greater spiritual perspective, so that we might create a new normal. And it seems like all these changes are coming from the outside and working us, coming outside of us and forcing us to be different, and yet truly the change is going to happen from within. What we do with this set of circumstances, what we do with this world situation is going to come from within each and every one of us. And how is it on the inside of us right now? Well, I know for me that there's anxiety. I know that I'm irritable. I know that some days I feel lost without the normal structure around me, without the schedule to maintain. I even feel a little bit depressed. And what I realized is that all of those feelings are part of the profile of grief. I think we are all grieving the loss of what we've had and how it's been and how it isn't in this moment anymore. And that process of grief contains within it the healing that is necessary to come through to the other side. We've lost our normal. I have a friend who has been in the same business for 30 years, and she said that she was just amazed at how grief-stricken she really was. That what she said was, "I've lost my life." In other words, life as we know it. And so that ego mind, that human part of us that likes to keep order and keep us safe and structure our days and help us navigate the world, is at a loss of what to do and who we are and how we're supposed to show up, because right now everything is different. We have to manage things. We have to make new decisions. We have to cope with circumstances we've never had to cope with before. And yet, we are adjusting. We are figuring out new ways to do things, just like this service. We're figuring out how technology can help us stay connected instead of being a barrier to conversation. We're figuring out what to do with our time. And if my dumpsters are any indication, everybody's cleaning out their garage, which is something you've been meaning to do for quite a while, right? And people are learning how to FaceTime with their grandkids. And we have a new noun in the vocabulary, and it's even a verb. Do you know how to Zoom? It seems like everybody knows how to Zoom. In other words, we are finding a way to stay connected amidst all these can'ts and don'ts and shouldn'ts and stay home. We are being pressed into a new form of creativity. And the truth is that the ancient stories of Passover and Easter have the same meaning for us today as they did in those times of great change. Passover tells the story of Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt into freedom. They were slaves, and the Pharaoh was holding them as slaves, and the plagues that were visited upon him forced him to free them, to free the people. And if we look at that metaphysically, Moses always represents the law. And it was a great time in human development where understanding that spiritual law, when applied to a religion or a way of spiritual life, that law could elevate one into a better experience of living. The story of Jesus processing into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday is a very similar story. Jesus had just come from raising Lazarus from the dead. He sat astride a donkey and rode into the gates of Jerusalem with crowds of people on both sides waving palms and shouting Hosanna. And as he came into the city, he headed to the temple. And one of the first things that he did was he cleared the temple of the money changers. And this isn't just a story of what happened on a particular day. This is an example, an illustration, a living example of what it means to allow the human to give way to the divine. Jerusalem, metaphysically, is the foundation or dwelling place of peace. So entering into a place of peace happens if you sit astride a donkey. First of all, donkeys were only used by royalty. Everybody else walked. But when you sit astride the donkey is that animal nature, that ego navigator, if you will, that has been mastered. It's not that we are not human. Of course we are. But we do not let the baser human emotions rule our lives when we are masters of our own minds. Those crowds on the sides of the street, that is the cultural opinion of the day. It is the thoughts in our head. It is the noise we are constantly surrounded by. And those shouts of Hosanna, Hosanna, is really saying, save me, save me. Oh, great teacher, you have come to save us from the Romans. The crowds and the shouts, that desire for safety and being saved is putting all of our power on the outside of us. It's sort of succumbing to mob mentality. And isn't that something that we are still able to fall under the spell of if we are not careful? We are called now to abide in peace, to be the master of our lives, to live not at the mercy of cultural consciousness or to look outside of ourselves to our power, but to live from our spiritual foundation, that essence of who we are, of peace, of love. And we are to clear the temple of the money changers. In other words, we are to clear out the human idea of exchange to make room for a spiritual understanding of power from within. So it's not what we do in the world that gives us our power. It is who we are and our awareness of our spiritual nature that brings us to our true power. Jean Houston, a modern-day mystic, posted something this week on Facebook. And what she wrote in part was, we can hunker down in fear or look for the opportunity to care, each in our own way. Our kindness is a light. The more we extend it, the brighter it becomes, and the more darkness we illuminate. We can give without any expectations until goodness flows from our depths, presents new possibilities, and expands our sense of purpose. This is what all the great teachers have done for humanity throughout the ages. She went on to say, this is our time. We can choose to surrender to fear, or we can show the world what it means to be thoughtful, to be generous, to be proactive in helping friends and strangers alike. Perhaps this is an initiation of sorts in which we are invited to step into a new experience of our interdependence and empathy. You see, we will navigate this great change of affairs by seeing rightly, by realizing that the empty streets and the empty office buildings are symbols of love and not lack. That face masks on people walking the streets are those of compassion and not fear. We are doing our part for the common good. And when we do that, we are elevating our own quality of life. This is all for the good of all. It feels sometimes like our lives, our busyness was taken from us. But yet, we have this opportunity to rediscover what's truly essential, what is of our essence that is love, that is peace, that is compassion, that is kindness, that is connectedness, so that we might live only that. So what I invite you to do this week is to ride that donkey, master the fears of the ego. Know that you are safe. Know that you are on the spiritual path and you are riding a sure-footed animal. Donkeys don't fall. You're moving into that place of peace, that place of love, that dwelling, that Jerusalem. Know that you are living your life not asking to be saved, but to serve. That love that you are seeks expression, and there are still ways to express it. Know that you are raising from the dead whatever lies dormant beneath your old routines and habits, beneath that busyness. There is something deeper in you calling to come forth. Let that rise. We are safer at home, but that means to be safer at home in our spirit, in that divine nature that we all are, interconnected, the oneness we share, the love that we are. This is our time of transformation. This is our own journey into Jerusalem. Namaste. And so I invite you to join me in a moment of prayer. Once again, taking that deep breath and moving into that place of the heart within. That place where all change originates. That place that informs all of our action. The place where spirit moves through and in and as each of us. As we live the love that we are, the kindness that we are, the compassion that we are. That place in us that knows only the truth. For that is truly where spirit dwells. It is truly the house of peace. And it is from this place that I live. It is from this place that I choose to act in my life. And what I know for everyone here is that all of us are moving together, rising up into this greater expression of life. That in spite of any restrictive appearances outside of us, what is happening within is a call and a rising of the deep. And that deep can only be of spirit, can only be our growth, our evolution, can only be that great change that is for the good of us, for the good of all. And so I bless it. I welcome it. I allow the transformations of this season, the new buds of spring, the holiday celebrations, the historical stories, the time spent with family in whatever form it takes. Simply allow that to lift me, to move me, to allow me to be the best that I can be. And I know that it is good and I call it good. I simply let it be in and as God. and so it is.
This is a great meditation song, a great reminder of who we are collectively, and a great meditation song to remind us of who we are as unique expressions. I am not the things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of brokenness inside. I am light. I am not mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that caused me pain. I am not the pieces of the dreams I've left behind. I am alive. I'm not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside is all light. We are light, we are light. We are light, we are light. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. And in case you're not getting this, I'll sing it like this. You are light, you are light.